The Institute of Leadership and Management recognises great leadership as being multidimensional. We identify 5 dimensions: authenticity, vision, achievement, ownership and collaboration. We've broken down those 5 dimensions into 49 components, which enable us to organise our resources in such a way as to help individuals access the leadership development that is immediately relevant to them. This video introduces teamworking, part of the dimension of collaboration. As well as using the 5 dimensions as the values of the Institute, we also use them as a way of arranging and managing our content. So we have a dimension, collaboration, a component, teamworking, and within that component, there are subcomponents, if you like, and we call those spotlights. And we go in depth at each of the theories or the supporting models, explanations that help us better understand and be better at teamworking. And so I'll be looking at those briefly in turn. And the first thing I want to look about, which really underpins a lot of what Joe's work is and a lot of our understanding of teamwork, is role theory. And I've put down there the sociologists and social psychologists who have really been attributed with describing role theory for the first time. But it's the idea that we act out different roles during our day, and how we behave in those roles is very much influenced by the expectations of other people and the roles that they're in. So while in a business sense, we know what a role is, to be a manager, to be a leader, we also have expectations of other people and how we expect them to act. And I think you can see immediately that if there is a mismatch of expectations, there are undoubtedly going to be misunderstandings. So many people have used and developed that idea of role theory, that we're all acting out multiple roles during the day, and use that to help us be better at working in organisations. And I think nobody's done more in the area of teamworking than Meredith Belbin. He worked in the 80s refining what made a good team, trying to identify ways that we could identify the good team players. And what I really love about Belbin is it's about how people prefer to behave. There's no judgment, there's no hierarchy. As I put a quote from him here, it's a tendency to behave, to contribute. It's the way we like being in teams. Belbin is close to many people's hearts, and often it's the first introduction when we go on a team working course of any sort. So Belbin has said he's identified these 8 and then later 9 roles, and that doesn't mean you need 9 people in a team. We all prefer to behave in a team in a certain way, but we also have secondary and third preferences, and really revealing is what you really don't like doing, that tells you where your team is going to be particularly weak. So Belbin helps us understand how individuals behave in teams, but Bruce Tuckman in the 60s developed this model for how teams form, and I think this will ring a bell with any of us who, especially if we've been sent on a team working course and asked to do things with tyres and planks of wood and stuff, and we're standing around in a group and we really don't know what's going on, we're not clear about why we're all standing there, and there just tend to be, even with people that we know, a certain degree of politeness and formality. Once we settle down a little bit, then opinions appear and they diverge, and there will be disagreement, and that's what Tuckman identifies as storming. And I suppose many of us might think, well, we're still stuck in that stage with some of the teams that we're in, but we then move forward to getting some sort of understanding about what we're there for, and then into that stage of performing. But teams change, regroup, reform, people leave, people go. So this 5th stage has been added of the adjourning. I've heard it called mourning as well, when you leave a team, and that can be quite sad. John Adair, action-centred leadership, another way of understanding what's going on in teams. And I particularly like Adair's, because it's simple. It says, well, we've got 3 things to think about: what we're supposed to be doing, who's doing it, do they all fit together as a team, and what about the individuals, how are they feeling? So also another great thing about Adair is, of course, everything fits into that model. You're not left with anything that's left out, because it will be a prime concern to the Team leader, is that a team issue, a task issue, an individual issue? And where you get great performance is when you're balancing all those requirements. High performing teams are something that we all want to be part of. And loads of people write things about this. You can Google high performing teams and get top tips for being a high performing team. But I'm going back here to the Katzenbach and Smith model, because I think that definition in the middle, highlighted there in purple, is absolutely crucial when we're talking about teamwork. A small number of people with complementary skills, committed to a common purpose, have performance goals, and hold themselves mutually accountable. I think of all the words that are misused in organisation, team is probably one of them. Just saying hi team to a group of people doesn't make it a team. Telling people that they're one team pulling together doesn't make it a team. What makes a team is this idea of having performance goals and that sense of mutual accountability. They want to be good together because they are answering to each other. And as you can see there, they've got that little pyramid of the things that you need in a team basics they call it, before it's a team, before you can start thinking of it as a team. You need the right skills, you need that buy-in, that commitment from the individuals, and that important sense of accountability. And a bit like Tuckman, really, what they've done here is, if you look at the curve, they've sort of plotted the course, the life of a team that starts in that sort of just a group of people together. Then people start thinking, well, I belong to something, and they're calling that a pseudo team. And then it develops into a team with potential, a real team, and then that brilliant high performing team, the thing that we all want to be part of. And as leaders and managers of those teams, what is it, the sort of thing that we need in order to be or part of a high performing team? Because I think that idea of mutual accountability reminds us that you need the whole team to be with you. You can't just have a great leader if you haven't got a mutually accountable and high performing team. As I said, you can find many characteristics, and I've chosen this one particularly by Theo because it's got 8 things that we can think about, develops the work done previously there. And I think some of these are becoming more and more important at the moment, and none more so than flexibility and adaptability. I think we've all known that, but goodness, haven't we had to step up recently? And that idea of continuous learning, always trying to get better at what we do, and the leadership being shared. And you're only going to get that mutual accountability if you have that trust and mutual respect. Some of you will have heard of the work that Google did about teams trying to do this. What makes a great team? And explored some of the things that other researchers have explored previously, thinking it's going to be about having a lot of clever people and a lot of driven people. And it might be all of those, but most of all, what Google identified, it was that a high level of psychological safety where people liked and trusted each other. So today, particularly, we wanted to spend some time looking at what you do when you don't see your team, when they're all in different rooms, different parts of the country, different countries even. And we undertook some research a few years ago into this very subject, obviously not predicting how topical and relevant it would become, but nevertheless recognizing that teams disperse working using technology as a way of communicating rather than being geographically co-located was the way we were heading. And the findings of this research, I think, are really going to be of interest to everybody today. If you are struggling, people were struggling before now. This is quite a difficult way of working, especially if you've suddenly found yourself working in at home when you have never done that before. But there is, and I hope some people already are feeling the benefits of the autonomy, that sort of sense of control that does contribute to work-life balance, unless, of course, you're under all sorts of pressures sharing that workspace with other people who are also trying to be great home workers. One of the interesting things, and we found at the time quite amusing things, was that we found the further away teams were from each other geographically, the more inclined they were to see it as a benefit, and the closer people were, the less inclined. So it seemed the further away you are from people, the better you get on with them. A real challenge for managers, which they kept reporting to us, was about consistency of practice. It's hard enough when you've got everybody in front of you to sort of set a standard of output, a standard of application. What do you do when you can't see people? And if you're one of those managers that sort of really relies on instinct and being able to watch what's going on, and I don't mean that in a sort of over surveillance, but you're picking up all the time how the people in your team are. You're picking up the cues. You can see whether they're having many phone calls to deal with. You can even get a sense of what's going on for them personally when you can see them when they come in, how they are, what their spirit is, if you like. And then you adjust, I think, almost without thinking about it, your expectations and your requirements of people. But when you've not got any of that data, what is it that you're going to be relying on in order to get an idea of consistent effort and consistent expectations in terms of performance? And one of the things that I put up here deliberately, because people new to home working often immediately think email's the solution, and the people in this research were saying, please, no more emails, we're overloaded with emails. And it's worth remembering that email, of course, is, if we go back to pre-digital communication, one-way communication was always second choice, as it were. If ever you can communicate with people, do it in two-way, find out what their reference is. And I think just if there is a single tip, if you get an email you don't understand, do not do the passive aggressive, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Phone the person up and ask them, because there's nothing more than a trail of emails that's evidencing a trail of misunderstandings that actually could have been stopped the moment there is a problem. Don't play email ping pong. I've talked already about the way it's difficult to gauge how people are, what they're doing when you can't see them. But another consequence of that is often something happens in an office, you see what's going on, there's a flurry of energy or activity, and you can, 3 or 4 of you can get together, speedy solution, job done. But without those sort of energy cues, if you like, you're not only are you missing things, but you're more likely to make misunderstandings because you're misreading a text, you're misreading an email, and you can't fix things with a quick chat quite so easily. We know that technology is absolutely important about this, but it's not all about technology. So much of it is about how we use the technology, how we use our voice instead of writing things. We have to be mindful of people being isolated. And also that important thing, that's the social thing that work provides for us. And in our recent research that we just published, New Decade, New Direction, your colleagues were identified as one of the most important reasons that people gave for staying in a job. So keep it going, keep that social fun, if you like, that sense of connectedness. We ourselves at the Institute had a digital coffee morning this morning where we actually just talked about curious things such as making your own hair dye, but nevertheless it was that feeling of connectedness. Seeing so many people's faces on the screen was genuinely really encouraging and motivational. So leaders, what lessons can we take from this research? What can we take from the present circumstances? I think firstly, for kindness, and that being the face we start with. You're going to have to trust people because you can't see them. You're going to have to trust them to manage their own day with very, very different levels of commitment and intrusion. And you're going to have to trust people. And the best way of finding out if you can trust someone is to trust somebody. But those things that in more normal times we'd say, well, make sure the technology is right and train people. You have to assume even something like WhatsApp. Nearly everybody listening will use WhatsApp. I bet there are many features on WhatsApp that you don't know how to use, or you don't want to use, or don't even know is there, is certainly the case for me sometimes. Somebody had to teach you how to use WhatsApp. You had to learn how to do it. And just because it's suddenly the way we work using Zoom or Teams doesn't mean we're going to know how to do it. So do support each other, maybe get an expert in, somebody will know WhatsApp really well, somebody else will know Google Hangouts really well, somebody else might be brilliant at investigating what is out there, what's free. That will be your resource investigator. And just as a final word, do remember that this isolation will have an impact on people's mental health. I think we're in early days now, a bit of a novelty. Some people might be quite enjoying, certainly not the commuting, but actually you've got to be very mindful that we do use work for so many things other than work, and being able to support each other at a time like this, to use voice calls, to not have big conference calls with loads of people on and you don't know who's speaking. All of those things make people feel better connected, less stressed, and much more likely to be able to be resilient enough to manage through these next few weeks.